Let's talk about past life regression now. I've actually been regressed by you in an audience with hundreds and hundreds of other people. And I know you are one of very few practitioners who have taken audiences of 3,000 and more through past life regressions. So let's talk about that. What are some of the common misconceptions about it? And tell me a little bit about how you got into past life regression and what it actually means.
I got into past life regressions through an experience I had when I was working as a healer. I was a really good healer. Sometimes I was booked up to a year in advance because I would just touch people and they'd feel better. The symptoms would go away. They said it was like magic. But every once in a while, someone would come back and say, you touched my shoulder and it was gone. And now it's been 6 months and it's back. And I thought, how can it be back? And I realized that a lot of the challenges that we have didn't originate here now. They originated in our earlier years, even our childhood. So, for those few people that occurred for, I began to take them back into childhood. This was amazing because
Mm.
often they would find decisions that they made, the beliefs that they had adopted about who they were, what they deserved, that came from early childhood. And we'd rework it. It felt like working it, reworking it at its source, and it would heal. There would be instant and profound healing. So I was working with a woman and she had stomach challenges. And so I was taking her back to what I thought was her childhood. And she said, this is while her eyes were closed in deep meditation. And she said, I'm being poisoned by my husband's enemies. And I'm like, what is she talking about? I knew she'd never been married. What is she talking about? And she continued to talk. And she said that her husband had political beliefs that she didn't believe in, but in that time, that as the woman, she had no power. And so he was out of the village for a while. So his enemies came and they forced her to take the poison, and the poison killed her. And it ate away, whatever kind of poison it was, it ate away at her stomach. And she had ulcers in this life. It was also came up at a time in her life when she felt powerless, as she felt in that life, being powerless to do anything. And she knew the decisions that her husband were making were going to be damaging to him and to her. So this was a wake up call. It's like, oh my gosh. And then I found that by taking people back into these images, into these memories, these past life memories, that you could heal something at its original source, that sometimes our challenges don't start here in this life. Sometimes they started in other lives.
Right.
And sometimes they're absolutely real lives. I've had people do my past life regression. They go to the library, they do research, they find themselves, which always makes me look really good. But it's not about proving that they're real. It's about
Right.
results. And sometimes there's things that I call soul dramas that maybe you can't prove. And most past lives you can't prove anyway, because there's no written history. But it's not so much about if this is historically accurate,
Right.
but what results does it produce? And by going back, shifting the past, it's like if you imagine a mountain and there's a
Hmm.
spring coming out of the mountain, and as it comes down the mountain, it gathers debris and it gets down the mountain, it's got log jams. To change it, you could get in with heavy equipment to pull out those log jams. It's a lot of work, a lot of effort. Or you could go to the top of the spring, move a tiny little stick, a leaf, and you can change the course of the river forever. So, what past life regression does, it can change the course of the river forever. And it can change that fear, that phobia, whatever that challenge is, can it's one way, and it's a quick way in many cases, that things can shift. I had a woman in South Africa who was blind, and she had a tumor that was pushing on the optic nerve. During the past life regression, her eyesight started to come back. And she
That's
went to her
wild.
doctor, and the doctor said, "Well, we don't know what happened, but this won't last long." She wrote to me 3 years later, said, "I still can see." And she goes, she was so glad because she'd lost her independence because she couldn't drive, and once she got her eyesight back, she could drive. I've had people who couldn't walk in wheelchairs, and they say it's something magical about me. It is not. It is actually going to the source of where the challenge is and shifting it at the source, and it can make a huge difference.
I had an experience in one of your seminars.
Ooh, tell me.
I had, this is like early on. when we just after we met in person, like this is going back to 2005, right? And I sat in your room, in one of the big rooms when Hay House had their conference. You had about 4,000 people in the room. And I had a really bad knot in my back that kept coming up around my shoulder. I have a rotator cuff injury, but it was really in a lot of pain. And I wasn't planning on seeing this at all because you took us all into the regression, and I thought I was going to think about something else, honestly. And all of a sudden, I imagined, it just came to my memory that I had a sword stuck there. And
that will do it.
I had a sword, and I turned around to look, and it was somebody that I knew that was just in my life that I hadn't seen in a long time. That was somebody that I had a very destructive relationship with in my 20s. And bingo, that person was actually a man, but I knew it was the same person who was a female in this life.
Right.
And I forgave them, and they pulled the sword out. It was just,
Wow.
you know what, I haven't thought about this in years until you started talking about these other people. And it was profound. I remember sitting there and I thought I made it up. You know, because even though, like you and I are both skeptical people, even though we have the most wildest experiences, we're like, I'm not really sure. Was that real? But I had felt that, and then there was no more pain. No more pain. And it used to be chronic in this one part of my back. Okay, if you like this podcast and you want to see more, just click over here and you'll get to see more clips from this interview. If you just want to listen, well, if you click there, you'll listen to the entire interview, available to you on any one of your favorite podcast channels.